It is vlog number 152. Due to this wrist situation that I've been telling you about, my life has been different. I'm unable to do some of the things that I'd like to be able to do, namely my reporter job, shooting stories, and spending more time with my 2-year-old son, quite honestly. But I have been able to play a lot more poker. I did a 7-day challenge where I said I'm going to play 7 consecutive days, which I don't ever remember doing before. And I posted the results to each of those days. If you missed that, I'll tell you how that went coming up at the end of the vlog. Here at Peppermill, we had a really interesting game here last night. I ended up booking a loss in it, but it wasn't due to the lack of a game being good. So let's hope it's good again tonight. It was a week when I had seen multiple bad choices made. My Sacramento Kings decided to trade the only true great draft pick that they've made in recent years, firmly establishing themselves as one of the most inept franchises in all of American sports. Sometimes decision-making can be stunning. And with that said, my goal in mind, obviously, is not to make any stupid decisions on a Thursday night at the Peppermill Poker Room. I start off opening ace-queen of clubs in middle position and getting a call from the low jack. The hijack also calls, so with 65 in, it comes 8-5-4 with 2 clubs, giving me the nut flush draw. I bet 35 and the low jack folds. The hijack, though, decides to raise me to 105 with about 700 left behind. I didn't think I'd be able to get him off 2 pair, but I certainly thought I'd be able to get him to lay down a hand like 7-8. With a big enough bet. I debated on my sizing here and ultimately settled on betting it all. Once I faded the snap call, I liked my chances of winning this hand one way or the other. Ultimately, he showed the 4 of spades and threw the hand away. So a semi-bluff right out of the gate has this session off on the right foot. Then I pick up the 7-8, flop top pair, turn what was likely an unnecessary trips before getting a river fold. I fold out my next 10 hands or so as I watch Reno Grinder get all in with the 6-4 of diamonds against local legend Mr. C, who had Queen 10 of hearts, and the Easy E, as I like to call it, emerged victoriously for Adam. I would then go on to flop top set against Mr. C, but I only ended up winning about $100 as he's clearly been making an effort to not give me very much action lately. I raise pocket queens over a +1 limp and get 2 callers. With 95 in, the flop is 7-5 deuce, 2 diamonds. Under the gun 2 checks. I bet 50, and the button folds. +1 though decides to come along, so with 245 in, the turns an offsuit 6. He checks, and I bet 75, which results in him making the call. So we have a $395 pot. I'm looking to fade a river diamond, which I do accomplish, but it does bring in a one-liner, so I opt to just check this one back here, and he says that he just has a pair of 4s, so we end up taking it down with the pocket queens. I then open Jack 9 of diamonds to 15 in the hijack. Reno Grinder on my immediate left in the cutoff calls. And then Mr. C 3-bets the button to 65. Now again, this guy is a true Reno legend and usually the catalyst of so much of the action in this game. So I'm going to be giving him action here, as is Adam. So we go 3 ways to a 10-8 deuce rainbow flop with 1 diamond. I was actually considering check raising here with a really good draw plus backdoor diamonds against what is likely a very wide pre-flop range from the button. But the action ends up checking through, and the turn comes in 8. Not the turn card I'm looking to see, but I decide to bet it anyway. I make it 80 in an effort to get him off of a hand like ace-queen. Cutoff folds, and the button makes a few comments, which could mean that he's Hollywooding, which he's very good at. But I felt that was much more likely these comments were a sign that he did have a hand like ace-queen or ace-king, and he ends up making the call. So with 360 in, the river is another 8. Didn't feel like it was a good bluff card for me, but the fact remains that I still felt that he didn't have a pair here. So I decided to bet accordingly. I chose a $115 sizing because, as I mentioned, chances are he's either slow playing and Hollywooding, or he doesn't have anything. So I need to bet an amount that won't lose me too much money if he has a monster, but will get him to lay down a hand like ace high. So I bet 115, and he ends up saying the last freaking thing I wanted to hear. Saying, I just want to see if I can get you here. And he calls, giving us a $590 pot, which obviously we're going to lose. I put him on ace king. I was wrong. He had ace jack. I show my hand. He shows his hand. He then declares to the table that I have won, thinking that I do have a pair, but obviously I don't win. The slip up costs us most of our winnings on the day. I do keep picking up big hands, though, as I was dealt 2 aces about 20 minutes later, but only Reno Grinder and a guy with an Ivy League PhD made the call. So I figured that getting action on this hand wasn't going to be all that easy on a deuce 3-6 board, and that theory was proven accurate as they both folded pretty quickly. I then pick up pocket jacks and get action from a guy who had flopped a pair and a gut shot, and would go on to drill said gut shot on the turn, where I called his $80 bet. Fortunately, a third heart killed the action on the end, and my losses were limited. Mr. C's under the gun in this next hand, opening to 20, folds all the way around to me in the big blind with ace-queen, and I opt to 3-bet this hand to $65, which doesn't result in any folding. So with 130 in, the flop is queen 9-10 with 2 clubs and 1 diamond. I bet out for 125 here with top pair, top kicker, and he snap calls. So with 360 in, the turn is the 4 of diamonds. I bet 200, to which he proceeds to call. So with 760 in, I'm looking for a blank on the river, and I would get it, as it comes the 5 of spades. I feel like this is a very safe run out for top pair, top kicker, and I'm still on the hunt for value. So I decide to bet $225 here. He takes a minute and shows the hand I call the Mac, the Queen Jack of Diamonds, which is exactly what I wanted him to have, obviously, and lays it down. So I do win this pot. But the fact remains that Mr. C is reading me perfectly on the day. So you got to give him credit for that. It would prove to be quite a busy day, as the 4th $5 game is called down at Peppermill. Taping this on a Thursday, I'm predicting 6 games will be spread on Friday night. Some hands are just weird. No two ways about it, and this felt like one of those hands. It starts out with an unknown player, really the only unknown player in the game, and a guy who's barely played a hand all day, 3-betting Reno Grinder to 85. I have pocket queens in the low jack and decide to just call this bet, as I think that a 4-bet is going to push out a majority of the hands that I want to be up against here. Under the gun 1, Adam calls, and with 260 in, we go 3 ways to jack 8-6 2 spades. +1 checks, and the pre-flop 3-better bets out for $90 here. Now, I was concerned that Reno Grinder's early position raise, with which he calls 85, is smashing this particular board. Now, I was also still concerned that the guy who had 3-bet pre-flop had aces, kings, or jacks. So I decided to just call and see what happens on the turn. +1 decides to call as well. So we're still 3 ways to the turn with 530 in, and it comes the type of brick that I was hoping to see, the 4 of clubs. I never expected this to get checked to me, but it did. So given that, well, I opted to bet. I make it 140. I had already decided that if Adam check raised here, I was going to fold this hand. The other guy I wasn't sure about, but I never expected in a million years for both of these guys to fold to this very small bet that I made. But they do. So 2 folds, and we end up taking it down, which was the last thing I expected to see, because like I said, it was a weird hand. I win a few more small pots uncontested, and then lose back about $75 when I flopped 80% of a straight flush and then bricked out. I still stayed for one more down, but didn't have any hands of note during that down, which was fine, because we're on the way out, booking a very nice win. Just had a vlog watcher named Osiris tell me that he's a snowboard instructor and has been doing so for years, and that he watches the vlog, and I said, damn man, you really should have known me before I got onto a snowboard a couple of weeks ago, and this was the result. Anyway, after losing about 900 in the game last night, managed to win that back tonight, booking a $1,335 win. All denominations of chips were in play in the following hand, which happened on the day before Super Bowl 56. Super Bowl weekend, by the way, is always a madhouse at Pepper Mill, and this year was no exception. Kayla and Rena broke out their best cat attire, by the way, in honor of the Bengals' appearance in the big game. Some hands you don't get video of, but they are memorable enough where you got to include them in a vlog anyway. This one happened when a $15 straddle was on, and Under the Gun 1, a very tough player, raises to $75. Plus 2, playing about 8,000 deep or so, makes the call on her immediate left. I have pocket 8s in the low jack, and I make the call. The button decides to come along too. So 4 ways, with 315 in, we get a flop of 8-9 jack rainbow. Plus 1, playing about 1,300 deep, bets 200, which results in a snap call from the deep stacked opponent on her left. I elect to just call here. This is not a slow play. I'm doing this out of an abundance of caution. On a board like this in a 4-way pot, I think there's a lot of possibilities out there. The button decides to call as well, and with $1,115 in, the turn is the 5 of clubs. Under the Gun 1 bets out for 500 here, and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do once plus 2 finds a fold. Instead, he finds the other option, raising to 1,200 after picking up a hockey puck and 2 black chips and putting them into the pot. So that calls into question, what do I do now? What is he going to have here? 6-7 has come in. He could certainly have that. He could be slow playing the other sets or the flopped straights. Could he be doing this with Jack 9 for value? I find that hard to believe. In a 4-way pot, on a flop like that, you're not going to be seeing too much slow playing of 2 pair. Still, I had to think, could he be overplaying something else? A lot of possibilities were out there, but the board was complete rainbow. There were no flush draws he could be semi-bluffing with. And ultimately, I decided that he probably is going to have me beat here more often than not. And I was going to make either a really good or a really bad laydown, which is what I ultimately decided to do. The button folded as well, and then it was back on the original raiser. She took a long time. And finally, after having already invested, of course, 500 with her first bet, decided to call off her remaining stack, which was about the same amount of money. The river came a 6, and it ended up being a case where pocket queens fell to pocket jacks for a slow-played top set by this particular guy in the plus 2 position. So, a massive pot for him. But I end up finding a way to save my last $1,500 thanks to the hero fold of the year for me. And that worked out well because the game got really good later on, and I used that money to book an $1,800 win and get the hell out of there. Checking in on a Friday morning here at my place. I think you can see it in the back of the room here, watching the Joe Montana documentary series on Peacock, and well, obviously it's kind of a Niner fan's dream to be able to watch that. Unfortunately, us Niner fans were still freaking stuck in the 1980s because we can't get anything done Super Bowl wise since 1994. Anyway, let's go to a quick question of the week, and I'm asked, do you include bad beat / high hand winnings in your hourly average? Well, absolutely, of course you do. And the reason for that is because all that money that you donate to the bad beat jackpot tax, as I call it, you include that as part of your hourly losses. So therefore you have to include the few times that you win as part of your hourly winnings, if that makes sense. It's also the same thing for tips, by the way. I have heard, and this is very rare, but I have heard some people tell me that they track their tips, which to me is totally a waste of time. Tips are a part of your loss, just like the rake is a part of your loss. So therefore there's no point in tracking it. That's why I've said before, you can't go overboard with the tipping because it adds up long term. But with the jackpot scenario, absolutely you include that in your hourly rate, because if they weren't taking the tax out, you'd be making more money in the first place. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, and this is coming from a guy who ran really good in this regard last year with being involved on the winning end and the losing end of two bad beat jackpots, which I guess resulted in me getting a total of $4,000 in bonus money. There's absolutely no doubt that over the years that jackpot tax has eaten me alive. I'm a guy who wins a lot of small pots, as you know. I try to pick off the small pots here and there with small bluffs, things like that. And I am paying $1 out of every one of those pots. So if I had had either my choice of getting $75 for every time I've had quads, $400 for every royal flush, which has been one in my life, or the $2,500 for losing with quads or better, or $1 for every pot I ever won, I'm pretty sure I'd make more money on option B. But I understand they have to keep these, I have to keep this whole dog and pony show of the bonus structure around because a lot of the casual players are lured in by it, and I'm not criticizing the poker rooms for doing that. I totally see how some of these guys come in, they're like, hey, they're giving away drawings every hour, free money, we gotta play. So you see those kind of people a lot. So I get why they do. So I mentioned at the top of the vlog that I engaged in a challenge, the first that I've done, and I called it the I'm gonna play poker for 7 straight days because my arm is messed up and I can't do much else challenge. And I ended up playing 7 straight days, the last of which being the shortest session because I had to leave and go to work, but booked 4 losses and 3 wins over the course of that challenge, but still ended up booking a win because I stayed longer on the days I was winning and ended up coming out $1,312 ahead for that challenge. So I'll take it. Hey, if you want to up your poker game, you can do so, and you can do it the way I did it. I signed up for Crush Life Poker back in 2010. As far as I'm concerned, the only better decision I could have made in 2010 was to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, which I didn't do. But since I didn't do that, signing up for CLP was the best move I could have made. It transformed my game, took me from close to a break-even player to a winning player, and I've been that ever since. And there's just so much you can learn on there with weekly podcasts and training videos, and you can get 25% off a basic or premium subscription for life just by using the promo code BENDEACH. Plug that in there, give it a shot. I predict you will not be disappointed with Bart Hanson and everyone else over there at crushlivepoker.com. That'll wrap things up for us. Follow me on Instagram at BenDeach and hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's great for this channel, and I truly appreciate it. And we'll see you back here next time.